Hey everyone, JB here with Lesson 1, Video 3 of the Youth Learning Center online video game design curriculum. Today, we're going to learn how to import an enemy and have it destroy when the laser hits it. We're going to go ahead and open our game salad game in the top right and continue on. So we'll double click, open it up. We can see our project info has been saved. And we're going to go to Scenes, Initial Scene. Now, as we did with the main character and the red laser, we're going to have to import an enemy image in order to use it in our game. We're going to go to the library. We're going to click Images. And we're going to import our enemy image. We're going to now open up our Assets folder on the desktop and scroll until we find the enemy. Here it is, Lesson 1, Purple UFO. We're going to drag that into the Images library and then up into the Inspector toolbar. We can get rid of this window, and let's drag this window out to give us a little bit more room to work with. Now, though later on our enemies are going to be randomly spawned on the side of the screen, right now we're just going to put the enemy in the scene for programming purposes. So let's go ahead and put that in the scene. There. Now, our programming is going to have to do with the enemy destroying when the laser overlaps with it. But before we do that, let's make sure we go in and relabel this. We double click on the name, and we're going to call this enemy. Press enter. Okay. Now, we're going to open up the logic interface for the enemy by double clicking. And here we have our programming space. So, we're going to do a bit of a different if statement here. We're going to create a rule. And we're going to change mouse position to overlaps or collides. Now that we have that, it's asking us which actor we're talking about the overlap or colliding happening with. We're going to select main character, and we're going to select Lesson 1, red laser. So our if statement now is if the enemy overlaps or collides with Lesson 1, red laser. We're going to drag a behavior in there. So we're going to open our behaviors library. And we're going to scroll down this time to destroy and drag that into the rule. Our if-then statement now is if our actor receives the event, the enemy being the actor, receives the event overlapping or colliding with Lesson 1, red laser, it's going to destroy. Now let's relabel this rule quickly by double-clicking on the word rule and calling it destroy when overlaps with laser. And press enter. Deselect the rule by clicking outside of it. And let's go ahead and preview. Now we can see that when the laser hits the enemy is deleted off screen. That's what we were going for, so we know that that programming worked. Now let's add an explosion animation inside our programming so that instead of the enemy simply disappearing off screen, it's going to create an explosion. We're going to go back to Scenes, Initial Scene, and we're going to drag the boom images that are found in the Assets folder into the Images library. So we select Images. We're going to open up our Assets folder. And we're going to take all the Lesson 1 boom images and put them into the Images library, one by one. So we have 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Good. Now we have all the boom images available to us. What we're going to do is essentially create a flip book that cycles through this animation after the enemy is destroyed. So we're going to take the first image in the flip book, lesson 1, boom 0, 0, and we're going to drag that into the inspector from the images library. Now we're going to open the programming for lesson 1, boom 0, 0, and make this into our flip book. So we're going to open the logic interface, and similar to what we did with the laser, we're going to make this actor animate all on its own without an event. So we're going to go to behaviors, we're going to scroll all the way up and use the animate behavior. We're going to take animate and we're going to drag it into the logic. Now what that's done for us is it's given us a big space to put all of our pages of our animation inside. We're going to go back to the images library and we're going to drag each of the boom images into the animation area. So we're going to drag 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So it's ordered them 1 through 10, this being boom 0, 0, boom 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and finishing with boom 0, 9, which is actually our 10th frame. Now that we have our flipbook created, we're going to make that flipbook spawn when the enemy is destroyed by the laser. So let's go back into the enemy programming by going to our scene, initial scene, and open the programming for the enemy by double-clicking. Now, we already have an existing rule that has to do with the enemy getting hit by the laser and it destroying the enemy. What we're going to do is we're going to spawn that animation when this event happens. So we're actually going to have 2 behaviors and 1 rule. We're going to go to our behaviors library by clicking behaviors, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to spawn actor and drag that inside of the rule. As you can see now, we have 2 behaviors to our 1 if statement. If the enemy actor overlaps or collides with lesson 1 red laser, it's going to do 2 things. It's going to destroy itself, and it's going to spawn lesson 1 boom 0, 0. So we have to pull down this drop down menu and make sure that we have lesson 1 boom 0, 0 selected. Now, when it asks us which actor to spawn, we have lesson 1 boom 0, 0. If we preview or test our game by clicking the preview button, we can see that when the laser hits the enemy, it spawns our explosion. But there's an issue. It continues to explode over and over and over again. Now that's a problem with looping. And we're going to go into the programming for the animation that we made, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't loop. So we're going to go to Scenes, Initial Scene. We're going to open the logic interface or the programming for lesson 1 boom 0, 0 by double clicking. And we're going to turn off the loop function by deselecting or unchecking this box. Now, when the animation happens at 10 frames per second, signified by the 10 FPS here, we can see that it will not loop. It will not continue over and over again. If we want to change the speed of the animation, we can drag this bar further to the right or further to the left to either increase the speed of it or increase the frames per second, or decrease the frames per second. But for right now, we're going to leave it at 10. So now when we preview, by clicking the preview button, and we shoot the enemy, it spawns the explosion animation that we created, and it doesn't continue to loop. That concludes Lesson 1, Video 3. So we're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to call this Lesson 1.3 because we've just finished the third installment of this lesson. We'll save it to the desktop and click Save. In the next video, we're going to learn how to make enemies randomly spawn from the side of the screen, so there's a multitude of enemies coming out and we have more to shoot at. So we'll see you then.